Oh, that's good. I just need to do. Hello friends, it is Danny, and today I'm here with
Hannah from Postshyhannah.
We're back from New York. Eventually, we're gonna end up doing like our experience in BookCon, like for the first time, because we don't know what it was like at Chicago because we weren't in Chicago, but we do know what it was like in New York and how we had a positive experience there, but some people didn't, so we're gonna do a video at some point on that. But today, we're gonna be doing episode 7 of the Danni Diaries. Yay! We've been talking for a while about doing a writing video of some sort.
We actually asked for questions on the way to New York, too.
And that kinda... We only got the one, but the one was really good, so I have it saved on my iPad so we can answer it now, because I went on Twitter, went wild and said, hey writer friends, send us questions to answer for a Danni Diaries Q&A thing. And here's a big shout out to Whitney from A Darker Shade of Whitney, because she sent like 90% of these, so girl, you are A+.
Hello,
She's
nice
like,
to meet you, thank you.
We have a bunch of questions.
Okay.
I'm just gonna scroll through my notifications, and when we hit Whitney's, I'll be like, it's Whitney! It's Whitney! Okay, so Bex asks, what's a genre you could never picture yourself writing? What's a genre you don't normally gravitate towards, but you would want to try?
That's a good one.
A genre I could never picture myself writing is probably fantasy. I say that a lot every time we talk about it during like nano discussion groups sort of thing. I just don't see myself as a fantasy writer. I'm not very good at world building. Everybody knows I stick to contemporary 90% of the time. I tested out dystopian. I talk about this a lot on Danni Diaries. I just don't think fantasy and I would be a good fit because I don't even really read a lot of fantasy. A genre I don't normally gravitate towards but would want to try again is probably dystopian.
A genre that I could never see myself writing is historical fiction. I hate historical fiction so much. And it's funny because I used to like it when I was in like grade school, and now I just don't like it. And it's funny because I like period dramas when I watch movies. Like, I love things like, you know, Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, but that's because there's a romance factor.
Yeah.
They're more like bodice rippers.
I don't think I could do historical fiction either. Another one that I didn't think I would normally gravitate towards is I had to write a memoir piece for my English, and it went so good. You can read it later. I love it more than anything. And I'm like, I've never pictured myself as a nonfiction writer, but when I wrote for Writer's Craft, I did an essay, like a an exposition piece, and then now I had to write a memoir, so I've had my taste in nonfiction, and I don't hate it as much as I thought I would.
For the second half of that question, for a genre I don't normally gravitate towards, but that I could write, I think, or that I'd enjoy writing, I really love like the beauty behind gothic horror, especially like gothic romance. Like, if you don't read a lot of gothic romance, I'm thinking things like the Bronte sisters, if you like movies maybe like Crimson Peak, that kind of stuff. I tried it for NaNoWriMo one year and failed drastically, but I'd like to try again.
So this is one from Whitney.
Hi,
one
Whitney.
of the many, but like 10 out of 10 for sending all those, because I would not have thought of a lot of those. Oh, we just got another one sent in too. So, do you benefit from visuals? Examples are character models, setting, images, and so on. If so, can you give us some examples?
Oh yes.
Yeah. I definitely benefit from it. My thing is I need to know what my characters look like to a T, and so I use face claims is what I call them, but I suppose that's what character models are. But I'll use random famous celebrities or like famous celebrities that I love and base them and change little slight features, or like use the manipulations that some people do on Twitter for those, so it kind of feels like I'm always writing some sort of fan fiction. And then I really love doing those aesthetic boards now for my stories, but I find that a lot of the pictures are hard to find because in my head I know what it looks like, but they don't have pictures for that.
See, now, like, for me, writing fantasy, I do a large aesthetic board, but it's just a private Tumblr. It's just this long board of visuals, and it's anything from face claims of characters to, like, settings. Settings are the big thing for fantasy. But even more than visuals, I think music is what really sets the tone for me.
I like that you made your own map for that one.
Yeah. I do.
Like, I look over
make
at
the
my
maps,
wall
too.
and I saw my map from Red Queen and I'm like, she made a map once, and I give her props for that because in my fantasy, that's the other thing. It's like I couldn't picture a map. Like, how do these people picture maps?
Well, actually, it's great because I get an idea in my head of where the geography is for the fantasy, because like a big part of it's the world building, right? And then I'll go onto one of these websites. Thank you, geeky boys and girls around the world, for all the D&D and like
Map builders.
RPG map building websites that you have, because there's so many and they're great. So that's how I usually make the maps.
Yeah, so Nat Cuddy, which I love her so much, she wrote Chloe Diller. Link her channel down below. If any of these are like booktubers, and a lot of them are, I'll link them down below. But Nat asked, do you ever write multiple endings? Do you outline, and if so, how do you do it? And Whitney asked that question as well.
Oh, I wish I had brought my outline.
What is an outline? Because I don't. She's an outliner. I'm a plantser. I go in with a general idea of what I want. Main sort of plot is like, here's what you're doing in the beginning. Here are some ideas for plot points, and here's your ending, but the rest is just fly off the seat of your pants.
Man, by the time that Nano's done, like my entire Nano manuscript, like that thick, it's just an outline. Like, it's just a very detailed outline, and then I just go in and fill it in like Mad Libs.
I mean, I wish I had that skill, but I don't like outlining at all.
For like
I feel
fantasy,
like
you need it though.
Yeah, I don't like having a strict outline, because then I get bored with the story because I know what's going to happen, and it's like, if I'm getting bored with it, somebody else is probably going to get bored with it, and it's probably really predictable. So I like to go off the seat of my pants when it comes to like the middle part, because then anything could happen.
One thing I will say is, even if you're not an outliner and you don't want to know what happens, one of the best things you can do for yourself is have a general idea of how to just plot so that you know where to build tension and where to release it. If you have that basic chart of like the spikes of the 3-act structure, and you know like this is where you need the turning point, this is where you need to rip someone's heart out, this is where you need to have it be safe for a while and then be bad again, because then
I love how you have all of this planned out.
just have it like a slide. You don't know what you're gonna be thinking about, but you're gonna know when it's gonna go up and down.
This is why I keep her around, because I wouldn't have thought of that. Clara Rossetti, she's also a booktuber, says, what's a song that you think best represents / tells the mood of your current work in progress, current project? If you prefer writing in first person or third. So that's 2 questions. And then she has another one where it says, where do you draw inspiration from? Where do you get your ideas for plots? Have you ever based a character off someone you know? I have 2 works in progress though. Like, no, I have 3. Okay, I have the editing of Speak Now, which would not be Speak Now by Taylor Swift. Let's just say that. Probably something. For that one, it would probably be Sleeping at Last. I love them.
I love
Turning
Sleeping at
Page.
Last.
Turning Page, probably, because that's the song that I listened to all the time when I was writing the ending. For Twinning, I really haven't started it, but I feel like that one might be You Belong With Me by Taylor Swift, just because. And then this LGBTNA really doesn't have a song yet.
It's because you haven't listened to Shane Mack yet.
True. Maybe it's something from Dear Evan Hansen, because, oh man.
For my current contemporary, it's Somewhere With You by Shane Mack. That song just gives me chills every time I listen to it. And for my current fantasy project, it's the original orchestral theme of the first Fullmetal Alchemist anime. It's some gripping, tear-jerking stuff.
She also wants to know if we preferred writing in first person or third. I prefer writing in third person, but Speak Now is completely first person, so I mean I bounce between the 2. It just depends on the story and how I'm feeling towards the story.
For my personal preferences, I love first person. Like, it's what I gravitate toward naturally, and it's what I always use for contemporary. It's what feels natural. But for practicality reasons, for fantasy, I go with third person because there's so many different perspectives that I need in order to make it work.
So the other one she asked is, where do you draw inspiration from / where do you get your ideas for plots? I get them wherever, like, they just kind of show up, and I don't really know where they come from, honestly. Kind of goes with the next one is, have you ever based a character off of someone you know? I I base all my characters off people I know. Let's be real here.
Okay, so there's 3 questions there. First of all, where do you draw inspiration? Music, always, and Studio Ghibli for fantasy.
Have you ever based a character off of someone you know?
Oh, inspiration for plots. That just comes, same as Danny.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know where it comes from.
But sometimes it will mix with that last question. I'll have real life scenarios happen, and then I'll just ask myself, what if?
It's like, what if this happened to a character that I'm writing about? Well, what if this happens? And then the plot's kind of just there.
Yeah, like my last NaNoWriMo project where the girl falls in love with her best friend's younger sister. I've never fallen in love with someone's jailbait. Like, let's get that out of the way right now. But I did have an experience where someone's sister came out to me, but not to her. And that was something.
The thing that kind of triggered that.
Yeah, because, like, where do you go from there, you know? In general, though, if you're writing people that you love, like, I do go by that old expression, kill your darlings. If you're gonna write the people that you know and love, kill them. Even if it hurts, just kill them, because then you'll get really emotional. And it doesn't have to be, like, physically really killing them. Like, kill them emotionally.
The other thing she asked was, have you ever based a character off someone you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I do get that you have to make people up because it's fiction.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's...
It's like at the beginning, it's like any relation to other people that you know is like strictly coincidental, and it's not coincidental because you know you're basing it off of somebody, or you don't realize you based it off of somebody until you read it back to yourself, and it's like, holy crap, this is like somebody, like this person that I know.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, I can't change them now, because that would affect everything, so we're just gonna leave it.
Exactly, and I feel like a lot of the time people will try to read themselves out of your stories too. They'll try to find out if they're...
Like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me.
And sometimes that's not even how it is, but they'll just make a point of that, so you're just gonna have to not be bothered by that as a writer, because people are gonna do it whether you write them or not.
Like, yeah, that's me, and it's like, no, that's really not you, but you can think that if you want.
Yeah.
Molly says, what's a stereotype people have about writers that you hate? We're writing the stories that we want to live because our life is not good enough.
Yeah,
I've heard that one so many times, and that one really pisses me off.
Especially like self-insertion, where everyone will be like, oh, so that character's
you. You based the main character off of you because, and you made her pretty because you don't feel pretty enough, and you made her feel loved because you're not loved enough, and it's like, no.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I also just, it really bothers me when people will say that you're being unrealistic. It's them saying that you're unrealistic and that you want to be a writer. That really frustrates me.
You'll never go anywhere as a writer. You're just writing for you. You're never going to get published or anything. It's like, if I'm never going to get published, then why have I been talking to different publishing companies about querying and things? Like, if I wasn't good enough, I wouldn't be winning awards and wouldn't be talking to these people that are in the position that could put me into publishing.
Yeah.
So who are you to say that? You just have to actually try to get your writing out there, otherwise it's kind of just for you right now.
Yeah, the other thing on a separate note that drives me crazy is when you're like in a writing group and there will be people that never actually write, but they have an idea for a story. And
or they do write and then they judge everybody else as like it's the worst thing ever, but
just
then
mean writers.
Yeah. Genre do you write? Well, she's like, even though I know Danny mainly writes contemporary. We kind of did talk about that. I'm contemporary all the way, or even just, you know, romance.
Yeah.
Mostly contemporary though. I don't stray from the path. I like my contemporary. It's what I feel like I'm best at.
Published poetry the most because I find it's been easier to publish poetry.
Yeah.
That's super easy, I think, but it's publishing the novels that's much harder. And I shouldn't say it's easy, like it's easy, but it's just not as complicated, I think is what I mean.
Yeah, because you're only posting like one poem. You're not giving away a whole book. Well, we were gonna skip it, but no we're not, because she has the feels for it. So Whitney also asked, what's the first story we ever remember writing?
It's this tiny little book, and I still have it. It's like this big. I cut up one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and taped the pages together, and I didn't even write it. I just drew it at the time, but I was like 3 years old, and it's these kids that are swinging from a chandelier, so obviously they're being bad.
Cyrus.
And they get sent outside, and then when they're out, no, wait, they get sent up to clean the attic, and then they find a treasure map in the attic, and so then they go outside and they dig up treasure, and then their parents are happy to see them again because they brought home money.
I've talked about mine in Danni Diaries past, like in a tag video where it was just about this door that could talk, and then behind the door was this hidden world and only these two kids could see it. That was the first story I remember writing. Do you listen to music while you write? If so, does it influence the mood or tone of your work?
10 for 10. Yep.
Yep. Ben asks, do you have theme songs for your characters? Do you have one at the start, or do they come... Do you have one at the start, or do they come to mind later if you do? I think my characters would have theme songs. I wouldn't be able to guess them right now. I think they come later once I know my character more, because when I start out I really don't know my characters. They grow as I write.
See, a lot of my characters are inspired by the music I listen to, so I feel like they came out of the song more.
Yeah. So how do you plot, Hannah? Because we know I plants.
Well, I've got this basic outline. I basically took it from 2 different blog posts that showed different structures for a 3-act structure. But then I took my favorite paced book of all time, because pacing is something I've always struggled with. So I took my favorite book for pacing, which is Inkheart, and I basically analyzed it chapter by chapter and compared it to those 2 structures and made up my own plotting structure, which I can actually... I'll do a separate video and show you how that works, and even attach like an outline.
The last question was actually the first question we ever got, which was when we were going to New York, which I really love, which is how to write through stress or anxiety, and that's from Aphonic Sarah. And I mean, we're probably like good people to ask that. You're at work, I'm at school, and then on top of everything else in our lives, and then both of us, we're both anxious people, so...
And we both have separate medical issues as well.
Yeah,
I know.
So everything combats our writing.
Yeah.
And somehow we still manage to. I feel really guilty when I don't write every day for a little bit. And I think that's where part of my stress and anxiety over writing comes from, because I'm sitting right here and I'm looking at my packet that I need to edit and put into my computer, which is sitting right there, and I'm like, I haven't done that in 3 weeks, and I feel bad about it, and I'm stressing out about it, and so I'll keep myself up late at night trying to do it, and that's the worst possible thing, because then you're sitting there stressing about not doing it. So, I mean, when I'm stressed about it, I actually just put it aside and like make myself calm down for the sake of like keeping myself sane about writing.
Yeah.
Because if I'm stressed out about doing it, I'm not writing at my best. And so to write at my best, I take a break from that, do something different, come back to it when I'm feeling okay. You're gonna make yourself hate doing something that you love if you're forcing yourself to do it when you're stressed about it. So
Definitely. For me, like, living with anxiety and depression, it's the same with everything. I find that there are things that that I can put aside and not do, and I'm very lucky in that I have a support system. I have someone who, if I leave the dishes for a couple of days, they'll do that, or if my apartment gets unmanageable, they'll come and help, because my anxiety and my depression gets to the point where all I can do is be in a ball on the couch at some points.
where you don't want to move, you don't want to do anything.
But the writing is the one thing that no one else can do, except for me. And there's a responsibility with that, because that means that it's the one thing that keeps you from abandoning everything. And the thing is, you never want writing to get to the point where it's a chore like dishes.
Exactly.
Because if it becomes a chore, then you just shouldn't be writing anymore, because then it's harmful to you.
That's
so
exactly how I felt last Camp NaNoWriMo. I was writing something, and I was vlogging every day for it, and I was like, this vlogging, this writing feels like a chore. I'm just going to stop now, because if I don't stop now, I'm going to get myself to the point where I'm not going to want to write this story anymore, which I did. But I'm going to get to the point where I don't feel like writing at all anymore, and I don't want to jeopardize losing the love of writing over stress, over having something that I'm not interested in writing when I could be doing something that I am interested in writing.
Exactly. So here's my advice. If you are living with a mental or physical health condition, something that prohibits you from writing, or if you're just stressed with exams or whatever it is, writing isn't the words on the pages that you have to pump out. It's a part of you. And so if you want to treat the writing well, you need to treat yourself well. And if you get to a point where you can't remember why you're writing the story, there are 2 things that you can do. Either it's not the story that you're meant to be writing, and you put it aside, and it becomes one of the novels under your bed. Or you can romance it back to you. Treat it like an affair. When you write, sit down and write as though you're having a romantic dinner. Light the candle, get a snack, and make it about just you and the book. Don't tell everyone about it. Keep it a secret affair. Keep it something that you smile about and no one knows what you're thinking. Because when you really love something and you keep it close to you, then no one else can shatter that.
We're done!
Woot!
Although she just blew that out of the park. Like,
We both blew it out of the park.
I can't. I can't. That was like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. That's exactly what everybody else needed to hear. Because that's like, I think that's the #1 thing. We pent ourselves up and think that in order to write, we have to force ourselves to do it or else we're never going to do it.
There's never a point where someone else can say to you that because you're not doing something or you're doing something and it's not the way that they think you should be doing it, that makes you not a writer. Not writing because you have something else going on doesn't not make you a writer. You're a writer because you feel compelled to write even with all that going on. Even if you feel like you can't right now, the fact that you still want to
and have the ideas, you're still, even if you're just writing them down as ideas in a notebook, and then when you're ready you go to them because you feel like you're ready to write, not because somebody's forcing you to write, not because you think that you have to, because you want to and you're genuinely there because you want to write that story for you and for nobody else, then that's when you actually are supposed to be writing.
Yeah. If you're just writing for other people, then that's unfortunate because that means that maybe you've lost the magic to just enjoy it by yourself. So I would say enjoy it by yourself first, because when you love what you're doing, then other people will too.
Oh man.
Thank you so much to everybody that submitted these questions. This was great.
That is it for this Q&A. It went longer than I expected, but I'm glad we got to answer all of the questions. And if there are any more, leave them down below. We are happy to do more Q&As. And this is why I bring her around, because her answers are so much more eloquent and nice than mine, and mine are just like my personal, she's much more experienced in those sorts of things than I am, so I'm like, I learn every day from her something, and that's why I keep her. I keep her. That is it for this episode of the Danni Diaries, and I don't know what the next one's gonna be. Hopefully something good about the publishing thing that I just sent in.
Hopefully.
I mean, let's hope. Fingers crossed.
I think good announcements are coming in the future.
Yes, I'm hoping. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!